pandemic, you decided to take a step out and take
Uh-huh.
that leap of faith. It was a huge leap of faith. It was one
It
that
was
you told
huge.
with. Yeah. It was one that you told with. But you took this huge leap of faith to literally launch your own independent brick and mortar salon, Naturally Sweet Hair Boutique. While
Hmm.
you've operated under that brand for quite some time, you actually launched it as its own independent brick and mortar. Let me say that because
Uh-huh.
you've been your
Uh-huh.
own independent entity for quite some time as a suite owner. But
Uh-huh.
now you are a full on salon owner
Yes,
in
yes.
literally 4 years out of beauty school, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Okay. So let's discuss one, the faith that it even took to launch 4 years after beauty school, the faith it required to launch as a part-time hairstylist. I just have to put that out
Right.
here. I'm just saying. And the faith it took to launch in a pandemic when the industry was actually shut down for a while. I'm just saying, I don't know if you have really counted the cost, but I'm just gonna toot your horn for you because I know you uh, full of humility, so you ain't gonna do it. But I mean, really, have you counted the cost? Have you really considered all of those things that I just mentioned?
Oh, sometimes, sometimes I do. Sometimes I do. Most of the time, I'm just working.
Yeah.
Just, I'm just working. You know, I had been toiling with the idea, and actually, I said I was never going to go on my own.
Hmm.
I'd actually said, you know what, sweet life is for me. Pay this little bit once a month, pocket everything else, pay my taxes. I'm good.
Hmm.
And then I had the realization that as a suite owner, you are not always considered
Hmm.
by the people who own the building.
Hmm.
And so I was in a mostly Caucasian salon, and things like dryer space was not considered because they really don't use dryers. They usually use
Right.
dryers just to process color.
Hmm.
I'm using dryers to dry people.
Right.
And I'd already bought my own big huge dryer to go in there. And so then it turned into like it was me and one other person in the salon to 10 of us in the salon, which was a lot.
Hmm.
Um, and so me and the other girl that were in there that I was friends with, we had kind of talked about, stepping out. And she, at first, she was like, I'm finna go. And I was like, nah, just calm down. We gonna work this out. And, you know, and so then all these other people came, and I was like, oh no, let me tell you now. And so, I was kind of like, we were toiling with it. And then the pandemic hit.
Hmm.
And so during the pandemic, I still was calling about buildings and that kind of stuff. And it was like nothing was panning out. Nothing was couldn't find nowhere. This place would tell us, oh no, we're not doing it anymore. And then here come a salon open up there. And so
Hmm.
I was very, very, very discouraged in how our commercial property in Texarkana worked. It was almost like we black stylists were redlined to one particular area,
Hmm.
and I didn't think I was too good for the area because we had just recently moved from that area, but I didn't want to be in a place that had 15 other black salons right there. But
Hmm.
the rent was way, 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 way cheaper than anywhere else in
Hmm.
town. Out on the other side of the interstate where we just happened to move in 2019, that's where the prime real estate is. But you're talking about bukus of money
Hmm.
to get in there. And so we had kind of just like put it on hold. So then we came back from the pandemic. And what I had done was I had in our group messages to the whole salon, I said, everybody, let's be on the same page when it comes to what we're requiring for
Hmm.
clients. Mask, wait in your car, no waiting in the waiting room, all of these things. That lasted all of no time. It didn't work. And so I was forced to make a decision because my clients were taking the pandemic very, very seriously. And other clients of the Caucasian stylists were not. And so I was making all of my clients wear masks. Nobody came in the waiting room. And everybody was just walking around all willy-nilly. They ain't had no mask on, none of these things. And I was toiling with it and toiling with it and toiling with it. And the straw that broke the camel's back was I had a client that was deep conditioning under the dryer. She had already not been coming because of the virus and all that kind of stuff. And I assured her, everybody's wearing masks, da, da, da. So when she came to the door, she was like, I don't know about this. I said, no, come on, I got you. First room we walked past, they didn't have masks on. I said, you know what? They in their room. It's okay.
You gotta calm her down.
You're gonna be in my room with me. We gonna be okay. So we're at the shampoo bowl. Everything's going fine. I put her under the dryer. I'm sitting in my chair, the salon chair. I'm looking at her. Somebody walked through, came to the shampoo bowl, stylist and client, no mask on. She got up, she walked in the room and she said, baby, I cannot do this. She handed me my money and she walked out the door.
Wow.
I called the salon owner and I said, listen, I just had a client that has been with me for 3 years to get up and walk out the door because they won't wear masks. And she told me there was nothing she could do about it. I said, well, can you enforce the rules that TDLR, the person that gives us our license, can you just, enforce what they say? And she said, no, because, I'm just like a landlord, so I can't make them wear masks. Because her thing was, well, just turn me in. I said, I shouldn't have to turn anybody in. You own the place. You make the rules.
Yes. That's right.
And so I made up in my mind that day that I was going to go. My husband told me, he said, hey, you got to calm down because you ain't got nowhere to go yet. And you got and at that time, because when we came back from the pandemic, while other stylists were talking about they was light, I was booked and heavy, busy and booked. And so he was like, you got all of these clients. The last thing you need to do is to be put out and then ain't got nowhere to do your clients. So you got to calm down and get yourself together and find somewhere to go. And so then I started, trying to find these places to go. And then the girl and I, that we had been talking, we found a place and we was like, but we were gonna have to do all of this work. And it was like the rent was pretty low and we was just gonna do all this work. And they were supposed to get some air conditioner work done. And it was taking like forever. And so I called I called my realtor and she said, let me tell you something. She said, usually when rent is that low, it's that low for a reason. She said, I'm not telling you what to do. She said, but it's that low for a reason. So then I found another building. Loved the building. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. But it was going to take some work to get done. And I was going to have somebody else in there with me. And, you and I, we talked about it. And you was like, yes, I think you all do it. And Derek was in my ear. Come on, you got to do it. You got to do it. So I finally decided, okay, I'm going to do it. And then when I contacted the realtor, he said, okay, send me your driver's license, all this kind of stuff. Then I didn't hear nothing back. So then I was like, okay. So then I finally texted him. He was like, oh, I'm just waiting on the owner to get back with me. So I drove by the building. Somebody was in the building and didn't even know.
Wow.
Somebody was in the building. So I was like, okay, guys. So apparently that wasn't for me. And so then started the driving through town trying to find places and all this stuff. And so somebody told me about the shopping center that I'm in now. And I said, well, I called them and they said they didn't have any, they weren't going to put any more salons over here. Because there's about 6 or 7 salons in this little shopping center. And she was like, oh, but such and such's wife got cancer and she having to shut hers down. And so I called. And he was like, oh, that's an old post. And I said, well, it's just me because me and my friend she decided that it wasn't what she wanted to do at the moment. She wasn't quite sure if hair is what she was going to stick with, what she was going to do. And so I just decided I was going to move forward for myself because I could not stay where I was.
That's right.
And the looking into other places, suite type places, you still run into the same issue. It's not my building. I can't make the rules. And so I called this place and I was telling him, I said, well, it's just me and I work in the evenings. And he said, well, let me call the owner and see. So he called the owner and he said, okay, well, the owner said that he put another salon in there. When do you want to come look? And so we came and looked, and it was this building that had an office and 2 other rooms. It was already set up for a salon. The plumbing was good and all of these things. And again, my husband was like, when it's time, it will be time. It will work. And I came in here and I had taken advantage of like the PPP loans and the Eylau loans and all these things. So I had the money to do everything. And so I came in here, I got the keys on September 15th and I moved in, sent the owner of the other salon the day before I moved out on October 17th. Hey, tomorrow's going to be my last day, because we were on a week-to-week thing. Tomorrow's going to be my last day. After I get through with my one client, I'm packing up and I'm gone. And she said, well, we hate to see you go. Wish you the best of luck. And so I stepped out and I haven't looked back. I've enjoyed every single solitary moment of it. And people come in, they're like, oh my God, this is a big building for you to be in by yourself. And I'm like, but it's okay, because I make the rules here.
That's right.
And I was very afraid. And my husband, you know, was talking about, I'm running these numbers and I'm like, how am I gonna do this and how am I gonna do that and how am I gonna do this? And you know, I used to have this particular number, and it's like, Lord, if I can just make this right here, it's gonna be all right. And from October to December, I like tripled what I was making in the suite. Same amount of clients, same time frame that I'm working. And it's just, God is just so faithful. And
Girl,
you know, I went up on my prices. I went up on my prices. You know, I was going back and forth on should I, and my husband's like, well, you opened a new building, so people are going to expect, you know, price changes and those kinds of things. And it's like nobody blinked an eye. Everybody was like, you know what, this is what we love it, and we're here. And then I have clients that travel from 2 and 3 hours away, and it's just, it's amazing sometimes. It's amazing sometimes. And even in those times where I'm like, you know, I kind of get down on myself, it's like, girl, what is wrong with you? You ain't got no appointments until the end of February. What is you complaining for? Because you are doing what you want to do. You don't need the notoriety. You don't need the spotlight. All you want to do is work and do your clients. That's what I do. And God continues to amaze me. And I mean, I even got to, in November, I started paying myself a salary. I said, look at you, giving yourself some money. And so God he has been so faithful. And, you know, it was very scary. And I didn't even tell anybody. I think you knew, my best friend knew, and my husband and children. Oh, and my coworkers, because I kept having to leave work to take care of the stuff in the building. I didn't even tell my mama.
I remember that.
Like the week that I was moving into the salon, because I didn't want anybody to talk me out of it. Because what people tend to do is, in there trying to help you, they will try to talk you out of it. You sure that's what you want to do? You know, we in a pandemic and da da da.
Yeah, they project.
And they project their own fears. And so I needed to do this, and I needed not to have a lot of noise from a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And even like when I would get the bill from the contractors, and I showed my husband, he was like, girl, you got it. Quit worrying about it. And,
I remember you would text me, child.
Hey, the only thing that took me by off guard was the plumbing. And it wasn't the plumbing working here. It was something that was broken. They had to go put up a main line. Yeah, it was the city stuff. And so that ended up costing me more than I had planned on it. But I had it. And I don't owe anybody anything.
That's right.
For this building. And it's only God that can do that.
Yeah.
Because there are people that go into debt trying to open businesses and all of these things. And I pay cash money for, if I couldn't pay for it with cash, you and I was talking about some dryers, and it was like, if I can't pay for it with cash, I ain't doing it.
Yeah.
Because I just, I didn't want that kind of burden on me, and God has been faithful, and I hadn't missed a beat.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it, how in spite of the opposition that you were faced, it was just like a roller coaster. They took you around the corner, up the street, back up the block.
Girl,
just a run around, but he remained faithful.
yes.
Even, and I think this is the lesson that a lot of us should learn, is that in face of opposition, it isn't the absence of God. And I think oftentimes we feel like, oh, as soon as we come up against something, we're doing something wrong, or maybe I shouldn't be doing this,
Right.
or maybe I should maybe I should reconsider, or maybe it's not the right time, or whatever the case may be. But it could clearly be the enemy just trying to stop you from being doing what you've been called to do.
I was looking at my Facebook memories the other day, and I said years ago, it's probably 7 or 8 years ago, if God's love for me, it was something like, if what I was going through was an indication of God's love for me, I would be a very sad person. But because I know better, and I know that he loves me, and I know that he gave his son for me, and I know that he will never leave me, regardless of what I go through, I know that he has me. And I probably would have never left that salon had the pandemic not happened. I probably wouldn't.
Had he not made you so severely uncomfortable. I think
Listen,
he knows his children, right? Because I think we talked about that. For me, God puts me in the most uncomfortable positions, and he's like, hello, I'm talking to you. I'm trying to get you to move. What is it gonna take? Okay, let me turn the heat up. And it's like, had he not turned it up, because you were so uncomfortable.
Listen, I was mad. I was
not
mad.
Even uncomfortable. You was mad.
And it was like, I can't love what I do every day and go to work angry. And I was going to the salon angry because you don't have enough respect for me and my clients to put a mask on. And so he had to do there. I wouldn't have left. I wouldn't have.
Yeah. And
I know
also the enemy will try to distract us. So if he could have gotten you to be so focused on the mistreatment, the irresponsibility, all of those things, to the point where you were so angry and solely focusing on that thing, you could have missed everything else.
Oh yeah.
And so what I also like, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I have the potential to show out, to show my whole behind. That's how I know the Holy Ghost he's real, and he's
a keeper. Yeah.
Because the old Angela would have told you where you could put it.
Yeah.
And walked up out of there, regardless of these clients. But he has brought me a mighty long way. He's done a work in me. And I go to therapy.
Is still doing it. Yeah.
He allowed me to find a real good therapist that helps me work my way through those things. And so, I was able to pull it together because I'm a professional and get the thing done. And it's like, don't underestimate me, babe, because when I told you I was leaving, I promise you I was leaving.
Oh yeah. Just give me a moment, but it's happening.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes God got to light that fire up under us. It ain't comfortable. It ain't necessarily what we desire. It would have been, just like you said, your mind was solely set on that sweet owner, being that sweet owner, and you were good.
I didn't want the stress of owning a salon, because then, when I went in the suite, the lights were paid. I ain't had to worry about nothing. They had a cleaning lady. Yeah. They had all I had to do was sweep my little room and buy my products. But, stepping out was, and you got rent. Then you got liability insurance. Then you got the internet. You got the lights. You got the electricity. I mean,
and they're going to lie
took on, You take on a lot of bills when you
Yeah.
step out like that. But God has been so faithful that I have not missed a beat.
But I
When I
believe
tell
that
you,
he
not
honors,
one step.
I believe he honors our obedience. There is
Yeah.
something about being obedient, especially when it is something that we just do not desire. I think we yield greater result when we're like, God, but I don't want to do this, and I think I say this. I think I say this on every podcast. Well, this is just my third one, but I think I brought this up. Look, like I've been doing this. I think I brought this up on previous ones and probably in other scenarios like this when I'm speaking or whatever. But that it always brings me back to the night before Jesus was crucified and how he went up on the mountain. He had that conversation with God, and he's like, if it be your will, like, take this
Mhm.
cup from me,
Mhm.
But he also, in the same breath, was like, but paraphrasing, but if it isn't your will, then
Right.
I'll do what I need to do, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think God honors that obedience, because in that obedience comes a stretching, but in that stretching comes blessings.
Right.
Like, it yields so much more fruit. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So it's just amazing how, in face of all of the opposition, you were like, okay,
Well, and
okay,
the
that
crazy
that
thing
plumbing
of
bill hit. You like, okay,
well, the crazy thing about it was like not only were we, doing this with the salon, but I have two seniors. And so it's like senior pictures and cap
hmm
and gown. And then my daughter's on homecoming court and she needed a big wedding dress. And she's a drum major. And it was like all of these things were still happening and
hmm
never missed a beat. Never, whatever dress you want, you get. Never missed anything. And 10 years ago, I couldn't have imagined
yeah,
being where I am now. Heck, 5 years ago,
yeah,
I
yeah.
could not imagine our lives being what it is
What it
right
is.
now.
But what is
But
it?
God is faithful.
That's right. What is the scripture where he says, he giveth the blessing, but he had no sorrow?
Right.
Um, and it's like you're a living testimony of how he has continued to
Oh,
provide.
yeah.
Not only has he provided what you needed, he done gave you what you wanted, right?
Right. Right.
Let's talk about this tripling of the income. You, girl, look, that blessed my whole life right there. So, in a pandemic where business has been typically slow for a lot of stylists,
Yes.
people are having a hard time. Salons are closing left and right. Not only have you launched a salon, you have tripled in income. Um, One, let's just say God is like, daughter, why you worried? I own the
Right.
cattle on 1,000 hills. I own it. It's
Yes.
mine.
Yeah.
What you
Yeah.
worried about? So he's definitely proved that. But without you actually having to do any more than what you were already doing
Ain't
outside
did a
of
doggone thing, boy.
marketing, still working part-time, tripled your income. Still working at the school, tripled your income. Still taking care of your kids, tripled your income.
Yeah.
Girl.
Yeah. I tell
And
my kids all the time, I say, you don't know who my daddy is. They tell me, you talking about Papa? I
I
said,
know that's
no,
real.
ma'am. My father
No,
owns
man.
the cattle on 1,000 here.
A
You
thousand.
know who my
That's right.
daddy
This
is?
is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he has literally proven himself. That has
He
been the
has blown my
beauty,
mind.
he really has. I had this conversation with a customer the other day, or one of my friends, and we were talking about how in this pandemic, it's literally like these parallel universes, is because we stood still because time is almost frozen because
Hmm.
with the shutdowns, and you're not able to move like you used to, and all this other kind of stuff. But at the same time, you've grown and you've propelled and excelled in other areas of your life. So it's like you're moving and you're still at the same time, which is
Right.
really, really strange. But the beauty of it all is that God has been so faithful to his children.
Yes.
Those who thought that they weren't going to make it through. I'm talking about
Right.
people who had no savings accounts, people who, I mean, we couldn't have predicted this, right?
Oh no.
even with businesses, speaking for myself, we have the insurance and everything else, which has virus protection, only to file a claim. And they're like, yeah, but if it doesn't physically harm your building, we can do anything. What is that even about? Like, a virus ain't gonna really
right.
hurt a building, right? So there was really no foresight into this, but God has
Mm-hmm.
sustained us
Yeah.
miraculously.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what is so beautiful is that if we take a step back and really look at all that has transpired, God is very much real, very much alive,
Oh
and he
yeah.
is very much still a God of miracle signs and wonders.
Oh
He
yeah.
has
And I tell people all the time, he has shown himself strong on my behalf
That's right.
so many times.
Mhm.
And I mean, it was like when people found out that they could come back and get their hair done after the pandemic, it was like folks were scared that it was gonna shut
Yeah,
down again. So it's like I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna be
I'm
on
in
point
there.
in case it happens again. And people have. I mean, it's gotten so. I don't want to say so good. I'll say it that way. That
Mhm.
now I have like a VIP list that these people get to book first, and then
Mhm.
everybody. I mean, because it was just that. I mean, like my regulars could not get in. It was
Mhm.
so many people booking, and I'm like, God, where are all these people coming from? And he's just faithful, and I can't
He
say
honors that.
that it's because I'm so wonderful. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
just doing what he has allowed me to do. And even when I started out, I was doing some numbers the other day, and I've taken these tight curly classes and cutting classes and all these things, and I was just looking at it, and like last year I did maybe 20 wash and goes,
Mhm.
2019, and last year 2020, I did like 150 of them. And it's like,
Look at God.
good Lord, where did it come from?
Mhm.
But because
Mhm.
that's what I love to do. And it was like when I was branching out to go fly to Atlanta by myself and take this class. And it's like, nobody's
Mhm.
going to really want this. And then I got people that come in every 2 weeks just to get that. And so
Mhm.
it's like, he keeps making a way and keeps opening doors. And, it's like, if you're willing to do the work, I'm willing to provide the people.
Yeah.
And I've been blown away.
Yeah. There's
Blown
definitely
away.
something to be said for trusting God.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
he has, like we've said countless times, shown himself faithful, and we are not worthy.
Oh no.
Um, we are
I used
just,
to There was a Tosh Tribbett song, and it used to be the theme for Pickett-Murphy. It's I have no other choice but to trust you.
that's right.
I tell people I have no other option
Yeah,
because people sure ain't gonna be faithful.
that's right.
So I got to stick with him.
That's right.
And
The
that's
one that
all I
is
know to do.
unchanging, right?
Right. Right.
We're gonna lean
Right.
on him at any given moment because, like you said, people are fickle.
Oh yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Wow. Well, this has been really good. I'm trying to see. Okay. So we've done all this talk about faith. What has been your greatest lessons? If we haven't already touched on them, what has been your greatest lessons? One, as a suite owner, but also now as a brick and mortar salon owner. And I just got to throw it out there again in a pandemic. What have you?
um I think the biggest lesson for me has really been to just actually do it. There's a lot of things that I think of, and there's a lot of things, I'm a really background type person. I don't like to be in the front, I don't like to be in the spotlight. And it's like, okay, you just need to do it. And there are things that I want to do, and it's like, oh, but folks ain't gonna really. And it's like, just do it. Just quit worrying about what everybody gonna think. Quit worrying about this and that, and just do it. Just take the step.
Hmm.
Um, and and every time I've taken this step, God has come and blown my mind. But it's like, He almost got to push me off the ledge to get me to do it. That's the thing. Just to take the step. I have been for probably a year and a half been talking about doing a website, and it's like, okay, just do the website. And it's like, yeah, I don't have time. Okay, my husband literally builds websites. It's like all you gotta do is slow down long enough to do it, and it's like just take the next step to do the next thing. And my husband says I have a hard time making decisions, and I do. And it's because like, what if I do this? And I'm an overthinker. And what if I do this? And this happens, and then this. And it's like, just take the step. It's, it's like the person is like, I can't let go of the rope because I'm gonna fall, I'm gonna hurt myself. And it's like the ground right there. If you just let it go,
just stand up. Yeah.
So that is what I've really learned. Just to take the step and to trust that you know what you're doing. You tell me all the time, I'll send you a picture of a style I've done, and you like, oh, it looks so good, and I'm like, okay, thank you. It's like, trust yourself. You know what you're doing, do it. Absolutely. And so that has really been the biggest thing. And then also not selling yourself short, because it is really easy to undercut yourself when it comes to prices, and people taking advantage of your kindness when it comes to these things. You book one appointment and you throw in trim and don't want to pay for it, those type things. And so my prices still aren't where they need to be. But it's baby steps. Baby steps.
How I am about them prices.
Listen, you and a lot of more people that I talk to. But it's like, oh, you can't. And somebody told me, I was in my class in Atlanta, they said, stop worrying about other people's pockets. Either they can pay it or they won't.
That's right.
So your job is to put your price out there, to know your worth. Either they gonna pay it or they not.
Or they're not. With all that has been said, what would be your message to that individual who is considering launching in a pandemic? Look at that face.
My message to somebody considering launching, I would say count up the cost. Because even though I did launch, I had to know what I could afford to do. Yeah. Now, yes, the income tripled towards the end, but I still had to make sure I was going to be able to pay the electric bill. Make sure I was going to be, I had to make sure I was going to be able to pay these bills before I got out there. So count up the cost. And if you can do it and do a little sacrifice to get it done, it's going to pay off in the end. Yeah. And the sacrifice pays off. My husband used to say a long time ago, and it stuck with me forever. He said, what if you have to suffer for a year to get everything you wanted for the rest of your life? Would you suffer?
Yeah.
And so it's like, if I can sacrifice for this little bit of time to put me in a place of where I want to be forever, I can do that.
Let me do it.
But yeah, let me do it. So count up the cost just to make sure that you can do it. Because what you don't want to do is jump out there and now you put more of a burden on your family and those. And that was something that I really had to, it's like, am I going to have to take money from the house in order to pay bills and those type things? And that's not something that I wanted to do. But when I sat down, and a lot of times we as stylists don't sit down and look at our numbers.
Right.
We just kind of just go with the flow. And anybody knows me, I am a pen and paper type person. And so I sat down and I looked at, well, this is what I'm paying for this, and this is what I'm paying for this, and this is what I got left. Well, what I have left, I could be paying some rent, and I could be paying some this, and I could be paying some that. And I thought I was going to have to do a lot more sacrificing than I did. But when I looked at the numbers, it was like, oh, girl, you're doing better than you thought you was doing.
Right.
And so, just take the time to look at the information and look at the numbers and see where you can move some things, and then see also where you can add income. Because I wasn't retailing in the salon, and I was, but I wasn't pushing it. Now, these products right here, this is what I
Right here.
use right here. And yes, you don't have to get them, and yes, you can use what you want to, but I guarantee you're gonna do better if you do these right here. And
Right.
so find those alternative revenue things.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to somebody talk, and she during the pandemic only worked like two to 3 days a week, and she was in like five figures in a month in a
Wow.
pandemic. And it's like, how you do that?
Mm-hmm.
But she came up with alternative methods of making money. So, you can do classes, online classes. You can offer one-on-one services. There are things that we can do to make more money. But you just got to be willing to count up that cost and then be willing to step out and do it. So,
Yeah.
don't second guess yourself. This is what you're feeling like you want to do, and you can do it with minimal sacrifice. I say do it and watch
That's
God
good.
bless it. And
That's
pay your
good.
tithes. I'm sorry.
Pay your tithes. Listen, I love that plug at the end. And pay your tithes. Yeah.
Listen. He is faithful
Yeah.
to give exceedingly and abundantly above all I
Above
can ask
all.
or even think.
Yeah.
Shall men pour into my bosom?
Amen.
Let them pour, Lord, because I'm sure finna give it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, I mean, I ain't did nothing different. I pay my
Yeah.
tithes every week. Every single week I pay my tithes off
Yeah.
my tips and everything else.
Yeah.
I try to be faithful to God because God is faithful to me.
Amen. That's really good. I hope that someone has really learned from this. Um, you dropped some jewels, girl.
Thank you.
Yes, this has been a true blessing. Anybody who is out there considering take the leap, one thing that I will also add is while the world takes the leap differently, where people are walking away from their jobs. Now, if you're called to that, do that.
Right.
But one thing that I am a huge advocate of is doing it and doing that job. I always tell my husband that job is the avenue to be able to do what you love. It
Right.
helps you afford
Right.
until what you love to do can afford everything else. So
Right.
be wise.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Be
Absolutely.
wise. Be wise. Exercise wisdom.
Absolutely.
Um, and
Absolutely.
and listen to God. Follow God. Through this whole podcast, if you really just dissect some of the stuff that Angela said, it was a faith walk from the very beginning. And faith walk also requires us to have our ear that is fine tuned to the voice of God. And so faith or faith walk will also require us to know God, to commune with him and fellowship with him so that we can fine tune our ear to his voice. So if nothing else, also get to know him, get to know him, so that you can know who you're following and who is ordering your steps, regardless, because faith, we know again, it requires us to walk not by sight, but by faith, and just be able to listen to what God is telling us. So get to know him. If you
Let
don't
me
know,
add one more thing in there. Get to know him. Please get to know him and know what he says about you and how he feels about you. And then also find you somebody to mentor you. I know it's hard for us to like reach out to people and be like, hey, I wanna, but there are people that are out there that will mentor you and that will talk to you. I didn't know Markeita from anybody else in this world. Never met her. Didn't follow her on Instagram or Facebook either. But I understood that I needed somebody where in the industry that was doing what I wanted to do to model that for me. So build those relationships, network with people. My husband fusses all the time because we'll go to things and I'm like, you need to be over there talking. I'm like, I'm okay.
yeah,
And then, you know, it was so crazy. I used to do a lot with Obia Naturals. I retail their products. You know, when she had her celebration in Dallas, I got a personal invitation to come, and I sat 2 tables over from the head table, and we were in this big fancy room and all this stuff. And so I ended up getting a client because a client was trying to get some products from them, and Obia gave them my name. They don't live in Texarkana, and they live about, I don't know, about an hour away. But and so build those relationships and those networks. There are stylists that I am quote unquote friends with, but it's simply because we interact on social media. And so I be calling their names like, you know, we real good friends. And my husband be like, who is that? And I'm like, oh, it's a, but we talk to each other, and we glean off of each other. So build those relationships with people who are in the same industry as you. Not everybody wants to be in competition.
Yeah.
Only person I'm in competition with is myself.
That's right.
Because I want to be
and
better
don't
than I
get
was
discouraged.
yesterday.
That's right. Your only competition should be yourself. And don't get discouraged if you reach out to someone and they shut you down. Everybody is not going to. I'm gonna be real honest. It takes a certain kind of heart to welcome people into our space and into our industry where we should be competitors, and to not see competition. It takes a special kind of heart. So keep seeking.
Right. If somebody wants to charge you for a class or some of that, sometimes you got to invest in those things. Because this is our intellectual property that we are giving. And so, you know, how bad do you really want it? Are you willing to pay for a class to get that information? Now, I'm not saying pay to be a mentee and all this kind of stuff. That's up to you. But there are some good classes out there. There are some good networks out there that, you know, you can be a part of, and you can pay. Because I have one that I pay to be a part of, and I get lots of information from it. But that's a sacrifice that I had to make to do. So, you know, don't necessarily be intimidated if somebody's like, oh, well, this one-on-one session is going to cost you such and such amount of money. Well, you need to know the skill. So be willing to, you know, invest in yourself.
It takes a broadened mind. We have to broaden our minds, especially as African Americans. We allow our familiarity because of our skin color to cause us to think that we deserve something from one another. But we need to broaden our minds and pay for what we need, or ask for what you need. If you can get it, get it. If you can pay for it, pay for it. However you get what it is that you need to get where you're going, do it.
And I can say, like, in cosmetology school, not only was I in cosmetology school, but I was also taking what's the name, Essence Radiance, her online class at the same time, learning how to do things. And so I've always been willing to invest in my education to be the best stylist that I can be. And so there has to be some sacrifices. There has to be some investing in you. That's the only way you're going to get better. You know, I just took a lot class a couple weeks ago, and right before the pandemic, I was coming to Houston to take a lot class. It's because I'm willing to invest in education for myself, because there is nothing like an uneducated stylist.
That's right.
Ain't nothing like it.
And this industry is continuously changing. So you have to stay on top of it. You have to constantly be evolving. You have to constantly be aware of what's happening. I'm not saying you have to jump on every trend, but be aware, especially in order to be able to provide your clients with the healthiest hair services. You know,
and the clients, they be on top of them trends, and so
absolutely.
You need to know what the trend is, so you can say, no, that's not what we need to do, or yes, that is something that will be productive for you. But if you don't know anything, it's just like, I always try to go down the hair care aisle, so when somebody comes in, they be like, oh, you know, it's in that purple bottle, you know,
you can call it off.
You can call it off. But if we don't know what the consumer is doing or has access to, then we're behind the ball.
that calls us to be researchers. We have to be
Yeah.
researchers. And that's for anybody, not just hairstylists.
Yeah.
You should be a natural born student of your industry, student of your area of focus. Learn and learn consistently. And that will project your business, project your, and get them pockets fatter.
Get them points.
Tripling in income in a pandemic. Do you hear what I'm saying? Well, Angela, oh my God, this has been good. This enriched me greatly.
Thank you.
And so I definitely appreciate you accepting the call to come on. I know it ain't necessarily
the invitation.
Yes, I know it's not necessarily your speed to kind of be in the front, and
you know what? This is what's crazy about it. So I was telling my therapist, I said, "Oh, I got this podcast I got to do," and he was like, "Oh, so this is the first time you're gonna be interviewed?" And I was like, "Well, not really, because I usually do radio and TV interviews and stuff." He was like, "Well, why are you acting like you don't want to be in front of folks?" I was like, "I didn't say I can't. I said it's I don't like to."
Yes, exactly.
But I was interviewing people in 5th grade, so I can talk all day.
Right, exactly. And hence the industry you're in, because it definitely requires you to be able to hold a conversation.
Yes.
But this has been amazing. I can't wait to go back and listen to and record some of these jewels that was dropped. Because
thank you.
You know, you done enriched my mind greatly on today.
Well, I so appreciate the invitation. I don't take it lightly at all. I appreciate it. And, you know, it's always very humbling when somebody sees your work and they are willing to give the compliment. You know, doing a good job, or, you know, I'm inspired by you, or something like that. So I appreciate it so much.
Not only am I inspired, sis, you are killing it. Just saying, you killing it. You killing it.
Well, you know what? I'll do a whole lot better if I post all these pictures that I take, which, you know, the social media ain't my...
I see it every 2-3 days. I'm like,
listen. That's all right. I'm gonna let my daughter be my social media manager. Maybe I can get some more information out there.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you know, I wish you the absolute best. I'm always praying for great success. I can't wait to hear this journey of going full time. You already know I was gonna plug that in there.
I knew you was going to.
I can't wait to hear about that, because I know that the Lord is doing mighty things. He's working mightily in your life, and there is with great purpose for that. And so I can't wait to hear and see. It's been a blessing to just be able to watch you implement the education that you've received from so many people, to be able to implement it in your business and be able to grow by leaps and bounds. There is something to really be said about that. And it speaks to the discipline that you have taken by the reins and really, you know, honed in, and made it a part of your business, which is very important when being a business owner, having that discipline. And so I am in awe of you, sis.
Thank you.
I greatly appreciate you for being on today, and I can't wait to see what else God does. I'm just gonna be waiting for my picture every 2-3 weeks. Every 2-3 days on social media to see what God has done. We do appreciate you, and we love you, and we love y'all, and we look forward to seeing what God has done. Tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me on Facebook. It's Naturally Sweet Hair Boutique. Yeah, Naturally Sweet Hair Boutique. And then on Instagram, it is _Angel P. And you can find me there. Website coming soon. Hopefully by the time you get this edited, I'll have at least the domain name, that kind of stuff done. But follow me on your social media platforms, and
Thank you for tuning in. We hope this episode inspired, uplifted, and ignited a fire in you that pushes you deeper into purpose. Until next time, God bless.